On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, Keith and I break down a series sweep in Orlando. Game 2, a blowout win over the Magic on Sunday. They get ready for the Atlanta Hawks tonight. We'll discuss that, but let's dive into everything that took place on Sunday with the Sixers prevailing over the Magic 133-103. We'll do that next right here, Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. What's good, D?
What's happening, man? Happy Monday to you, man. Back at it.
Yeah, it was happy Monday. It was a happy Sunday for Philly teams, right?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And a happy Monday to all of you out there that welcome. You are Locked On 76ers. I'm Devon Givens from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia, alongside my co-host and partner, as always, Keith Pompey from theenquirer.com, Sixers beat writer. And, of course, I'm from 97.5 The Fanatic. We appreciate you taking the time to make Locked On 76ers your first listen today. Now make remember Locked On 76ers is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, right here, Locked On 76ers. Yes, Keith, a good Sunday where the 76ers started things off with their victory, a blowout 30-point win, 133-103 over the Orlando Magic. Shorthanded as the Orlando Magic were, Sixers took care of business and got it done on the road. First night of a back-to-back, taking on the Atlanta Hawks tonight. We'll talk about the Hawks later on in the podcast here. And then also we have to discuss, some of the key standouts there of what they look like in the game last night, maybe forecast when the other players are eligible to start to come back, James Harden and Joel Embiid in particular. But yes, you also mentioned good Philly sports, weekend Sunday. The Eagles are 10-1 now after their win on Sunday night. So it was an entertaining game. They put up a lot of points, not a lot of defense. It was more the special teams. It was awful. Special teams.
Yeah, I mean, what special teams, right? Sickly playing.
They are special, to your point. Well, look, man, you were there in Orlando for both games, Friday and Sunday. A much closer win on Friday and a big blowout on Sunday. And it really got away from the Magic. They were leading early on in the first quarter, and then Sixers went on a run to close the first quarter out and take the lead, and they never looked back. And second quarter, extending that lead, and then in the second half, just really putting it on the Orlando Magic. So what were your takeaways from it? We had some career nights. The team had a season high, was it, Keith? 133 on the season in terms of points, and a few other individual performances that were really good. What stood out to you in the game?
I mean, there's a lot of things that stood out, but I think if you burn the lead, if you don't talk about Shake Milton, like Shake Milton was on fire. I mean, Shake Milton, since he's been getting a lot of minutes, especially been inserted into the starting lineup, I got to see what the numbers are like. I would love to see what the Sixers offense is since Shake Milton has been, what their ranking is since Shake Milton has been the starter, because he was phenomenal. He had another great night. Like last night, Shake had a season high 29 points. He had a game high 7 assists. He was 10 for 13 from the field, including going 3 for 6 on threes and 6 for 6 from the foul line. And then you also look like at a guy like Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris finished with 25 points on 10 for 14 shooting, and he had 18 of them on 7 for 10 shooting in the first half. But, the thing that stood out to me was, yes, the other team did take a little early lead, but the 76ers basically dominated the game when they decided to just go run at the rim. Like last game they played this team had too much length for them. They were blocking shots. And what you typically do is you see a guard, when a big is handling a guard, the guard typically takes them off the dribble, and goes in on him, right? Because the guy's lateral movement isn't quick enough. And that's exactly what the 76ers did. I mean, they had 72 points in the paint. Guys were getting at the rim dunking, they were getting layups, and then at times they would do step back threes on them because they were so used to them going to the rim that they would collapse a little bit. And I'm here to tell you, like, this was a impressive win. Now, some people are going to say it was the struggling Orlando Magic, a team that was without a bunch of players. Now that's true. But when we look at this was a confidence boost game because they won a series. They had a season high in assists, a season and 32 assists, a season high in points. And there was a lot of other positives that the Sixers had last night.
When we looked at this trip that they were going to have, this 3-game trip, including Charlotte on Wednesday, the second night of a back-to-back after that big win over Brooklyn, you also saw the Orlando Magic in front of you and said that they needed to take all 3 of them, if not 2 of 3 of those road games, because after those 3, you come home tonight for Atlanta, but then you go on a road for a good chunk of games there, starting with Cleveland on Wednesday, and then I believe is it Memphis on Friday.
Friday, yes.
Yeah, so they needed to start accumulating wins, and to your point, real fast, Shake Milton already had a career high with the 10 assists. This when he had the double earlier in the week, but they have not been in a place right now, Keith, where they have the luxury of dropping games with hovering around 500, either below it, at it, or now looking at them with 2 games over 500. They haven't had the luxury of just being able to simply lose games. So even, despite the fact that Orlando were without so many players and shorthanded, losing players in the game also, or just not having them at their full strength in the game on Sunday night, a win is a win is a win at this point, in my opinion, for how these things lay out, especially when you have the second night of a back-to-back tonight and you have the the Atlanta Hawks, and both teams played last night, but the Hawks are a better team, fully equipped to go out there and play and win. But what we've seen is, at least with the Sixers, that they have competed to a very high level with those other players out of the lineup. And as you mentioned, Shake Milton has really been a key driving force for everything that's been going on. Melton, Harris, as you mentioned, getting some good production from George Niang, Paul Reed with the career high 13 rebounds. And then they had 2 players they had, I think, 5 players in double figures, 2 players with 9 points. And they just really put it on that Magic team last night. And that's what they were supposed to do. Despite having their guys out, they needed to walk away with this win and to as you mentioned, have this as a momentum booster going forward. So they should feel good about what they did, and maybe rebound very quickly and get it going against the Atlanta Hawks tonight, back at home for this quick game as they come back to the arena. So good win and something to build off of. And I think in the end, Keith, when it's all said and done, the building that we look at here is the building of what the depth might look like, just as we talked about when the off season was there and they put the team together, that they may have put something together that could be pretty good behind those star players in Embiid, Harden, and Maxey, and of course with Harris and Tucker in the starting lineup also. So, it's a good win. It's a good win. It was there in front of them, and that's what they needed to do to take care of business. So, you know what? Let's talk a little bit more about Shake Milton on the other side, Keith, and kind of get to him. We'll pivot another day when the guys are really closer to come back on the floor. We hope that is soon, so we can see this full complement, and especially with this new way that these guys are playing and helping Doc Rivers' team out, to see exactly where they are. So when we come back, we'll talk more about Shake Milton. As you mentioned, very curious to see what the numbers are, but just his overall play and some of the things that we have seen from him in this steady level of play for the team as they've been playing more without the other guys. And we'll do so when we get back right here on the Locked On 76ers podcast. I do have to tell you, though, as you are now getting ready into the holiday season, maybe you took advantage of it during Thanksgiving last week. You might need to do so again in a few more weeks with the Christmas holiday and New Year's, and you want to make sure you stay safe. One of the world's largest car sharing marketplaces that is out there and want to make sure we bring more awareness to is Turo. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, UK, Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Maybe get a classic luxury car for a special event like a birthday, a holiday, or you're celebrating someone's marriage, and maybe you even want to just simply, have that night out before the marriage takes place and have some fun and go safe and, be out there. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. It's very simple. Test drive the new electric vehicle you had your eye on to see how it fits into your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget those boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, go ahead, get those vehicles, folks. Be safe out there. Do it today. Make sure you do it today. Maybe you want to go to a game, like a Sunday night football game in Philadelphia, and you don't want to drive. You don't want to feel like dealing with the traffic and all that, paying for parking. Just get the Turo. Do that, Turo.com. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. For your second, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Keith, 29 points last night, a season high for Shake Milton, as you mentioned, and just been on a roll, man. Just been in a really good place right now for the 76ers. And just looking at his box, overall these last few games, man, and just the numbers are crazy. So right now in the season, he's averaging basically 11 points a game. 29 last night, Friday 24, Charlotte 22, 16 against Brooklyn. The 10 assists that you talked about in the last Orlando game for the season high and career high for that double-double. 27 against Minnesota in that close game. He was 10 for 15. He's rebounding. He's assisting. He's keeping his turnovers relatively low. Sometimes they'll be 5, and then they'll be down to 2 or 1. He won't have a lot. Keith, he's been playing some really good ball, even dating back to November 12th when they played the Atlanta Hawks in that back-to-back home and home. 18 at Atlanta, 21 back here in Philadelphia, 11 in that win. 5 in Atlanta, 11 at home, only 2 in the Utah win with 11 minutes. And, of course, Embiid just dominated. No one else really scored. 15 against Milwaukee, 27 against Minnesota, 16 against Brooklyn, 22, 24, 29. The guy's just been on a really good pace, man. In the last 5 games, figuring he's well over 22 points with what he's been able to do, shooting a good percentage from beyond confidently. He just looks confident, Keith. Just looks confident.
Yeah, exactly. And you said well over 20 points. I'm gonna read off what he's averaging over the last 5 games. Shake Milton is averaging 23.6 points on 60.6% shooting from the field, 52% on threes, right? 95% from the foul line. He's averaging 6.6 rebounds, 6.6 assists, 0.8 steal, and 0.2 blocks. And over all that time, he's been a +9, right? And
so last week, real fast, it was Brooklyn, Charlotte, Orlando, and Orlando, right? Last night counts for the week.
Yeah, last night counts too, but it's also more than
2.
So it started off with Minnesota when they played Minnesota. So
3 and 1.
Okay. Actually, they were.
3 and 2.
Okay. So they were 3 and they lost to Minnesota. So since his second game. They've been 3-1 over the last week. But yeah, but he started off
That's
against
player of the week.
Minnesota.
That's player of the week stuff, Keith.
It could be. I mean, it could be. I mean, when you look at it, you ask yourself, like, why wouldn't he be player of the week, right? I mean, but again, we got to see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And he's only been like he's only averaging 14 shot attempts a game, But and he's shooting 52% off of 5 3-point attempts a game. So really balling, man. He really has. And again, I got to see what the offensive the numbers, because the numbers looked very crisp with them. I mean, we kept saying they need a third ball handler. They need somebody. And again, we'll get a better idea of how he does when they play better, competition. But, Brooklyn wasn't a team to sneeze at, right? Now he has 16 points, and nor was Minnesota. They're not teams that you can look at and take lightly. And he came to play in both of those games. He had 27 against Minnesota, right? 10 for 15 from the thrill, 3 for 5, on threes. So, he's played well. He's played well.
He really has, man. And this is the reason why we talk about it in the way that we are, is because this is a player that we talked about being on the back end of the roster, just because of bringing in Milton, Maxey, and Harden being your primary ball handlers. And where's he going to fit in? We have our 10 that we look at, and you can go down the line with Milton and Korkmaz and see where they fit in with things as far as the overall depth goes. But Keith, now Doc Rivers is going to have a tough time not having him on the floor when those other players do in fact come back, because he's been so good. So maybe they have, maybe they haven't. We talked about this the other day, because you were so adamant about them getting another ball handler, another guard to go along with their group. And if he continues to play like this, protect the basketball the way that he is, it's going to be really difficult. But now when you look at Milton and Milton coming off the bench together, you at least have to feel better about it. You may not be 100% secure, because we do have to see him in that role again when they come back, but to at least feel better about it. And I honestly didn't see this coming. And that's the beauty of sports, where things just play out the way that they do in a particular season. And when they do, sometimes you get some answers to questions that you did not have. And right now, we may have an answer to what they have going forward when the other players do come back and their rotation looks much, much better.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, D. I agree 100%.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we need to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. They're up next tonight, and the Sixers, again, they played each other just last week, where they had that home and home, and they split both games there. Atlanta taking one, Philadelphia taking the other. We'll talk about them again, their third matchup of the season. That will be tonight back here in Philadelphia. We'll do that next right here on Locked On 76ers.
Before we talk about that, let's talk about PrizePicks, right? Here's the thing I like about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is one of those things, like, for instance, you take a guy like Luka Doncic, right? And you say, hey, I'm going to think that Luka Doncic is going to score more than 26.5 points. LeBron James is going to have more than 7.5 rebounds. Kevin Durant, I'm sorry, KD, but I'm picking you to have less than 6.5 assists. And Steph Curry, more than 3.5 3-pointers made, right? So how does this work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will go score more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you and the projections available. PrizePicks offers projection on any sport that you watch. This includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, World Cup soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA. You get the gist. There's so many sports that I can't even name them all. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy, right? Safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational in 30 states and Canada. Now, this is what you do. Download the PrizePicks apps or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First time users can receive 100% instant deposit matchup to $100 with promo code locked on. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget the enter promo code locked on at sign up and the instant deposit matchup for $100. I'm telling you, y'all, do it today, people. Definitely do it today.
No doubt about it. Do it today. Something that is going to be done today. 76ers hosting the Atlanta Hawks. This is the third matchup, Keith, so far this season. Hawks right now after last night. They are 11-9 on the season, an identical record, Keith, with the Philadelphia 76ers, 4-6 in their last 10, and the 76ers again are right behind them. So when you look at things here, Keith, and you look at the Atlanta Hawks, I guess not much has changed when it comes to, they're getting into little scuffles with the Houston Rockets the other day, where DeJounte Murray, who I'm a fan of, they just doing stuff now that's just getting on my nerves. They lost, by the way, by 8 last night to the Miami Heat, 106-98. And did you see the shot with DeJounte Murray, top of the key? Jalen Smith, the rookie from Auburn, playing for the Houston Rockets. Shot goes up. He follows through as the ball goes through the rim and the nets. He taps him on the top of his head. Then down the other end, Murray and who was it? I don't remember who it was. Murray and Smith got into it. Maybe it was just something that carried over from the other end. Then Trae Young and Jalen Green are getting into it, and then Kevin Porter Jr. comes over. They're kind of annoying right now. There's a budding rivalry here now because of the playoffs from 2020 with the Sixers and the Hawks, where there have been some really good games, and the John Collins' dunk and Clint Capella can rebound out of this world, all that type of stuff. Ben Simmons is gone. Kevin Huerter is gone. However, they're just this weird, annoying team now. Trae Young had 22 last night. John Collins led them with 23 and 14. DeAndre Hunter, the local product, had 18. Murray 13, 5, and 2. Okongwu started for Capella, who was out. I mean, Keith, look, they're again 4-6 in their last 10. They lose last night to the Miami Heat. Sixers are tied with them in the standings at this point. They're starting to become annoying.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not annoyed by them. I mean, because my thing is actually I don't pay attention to it. I haven't seen it, but
oh yeah, wait till you see that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, teams play like I guess it's one of those things where they're annoying to people outside of their market, but the people in their market is like, yeah, we're not soft anymore. We got some tough dudes, right? You know what I mean?
I don't know how tough that was, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those. Now, the one thing is, we'll see what they do tonight. See if you could come back and you can, you might duplicate that energy. But at the same time, like you said, they lost last night. It's easy to do stuff like that to Houston. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't know. One thing that I will say is that I think that they have a chip on their shoulder from the last game they played against the Sixers. Just because you remember late in the game, Embiid attempted that 3 and they looked at him like he was crazy. And then they go down there and they score in the closing seconds and they give like some crazy stares. So, I mean, I'm interested in seeing this game, but, it really is not, to me, and not a knock against Atlanta, but I really would like to see how the Sixers respond. Like, again, they went out there and they beat Brooklyn. And we were all like, yo, that was, a great win at the time. And then we go out and we see Brooklyn go out there and get beat up on by the Pacers, right? And the Pacers are the fourth best team in the East, but we still look at them as the Pacers, right? So, I just want to see from an eye test on just what the Sixers can do against this team, and then going to Cleveland and stuff like that. So it's really not about uh, the Hawks to me. It's more so about the Sixers, just to see what they can do, coming off of this back to back. See if they have the same ball movement and play as well. Because playing the Hawks is different than playing Charlotte and in Orlando.
No, it is. It is right now identical records. They have their two-star players in Young and Murray with Collins. No Capella, but DeAndre Hunter is there. This will be a challenge for them tonight, shorthanded as they are. But you should be able to attack Trae Young on the offensive end. I'd imagine DeAnthony Melton will get that assignment, and Shake Milton will probably be up on uh, DeJounte Murray, and you'll go from there with everything. PJ Tucker, is PJ Tucker good to go?
I mean, we'll find out. I mean, they haven't updated the injury report yet. It's one of those things where, it looked he looked like he was. I mean, he was hobbled yesterday. It was he didn't play in the second half. You saw him grimacing in the second quarter. He was running gingerly, trying to get back on D. But then on offense, you could see him grimacing on pain and transition. And so, it's one of the things where, you may need him, especially for the success he had against these guys last year. But at the same time, is also one of the things where you're also going to need them later on in the week as well, too.
For sure. Yep. Because you have Cleveland and Memphis and then Houston next week. But then, Keith, they have 7 straight home, season high 7-game homestand, starting with the Lakers, ending with the Clippers on the 23rd of December before the Christmas Day game against the New York Knicks. So an opportunity here on the road to take care of these. And then, of course, coming back at home, maybe getting some of their players back into the lineup. Well, we'll be back with everybody tomorrow to recap the Sixers and the Hawks game, see if they can keep this momentum going and pick up their third win in a row, this time over the Atlanta Hawks, and then Cleveland on Wednesday. We'll dissect that when we get there. But we want to thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. For your next, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. That's all available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Keith, you mind letting the good people know where they can find us?
You can find my man D on 97.5 FM tonight from 6 to midnight. It's overtime.
Yeah.
Flow. So you
before the game and after the game. Yep.
Before the game and after the game. And then you can also make sure you follow him on Twitter. Do that at Devon G975. You can follow me at Pompey on Sixers, and you can read my stuff in Enquirer.com.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, make sure you all check out Keith's stories, of course, on Enquirer.com. Always keeping you up on the best with the 76ers and uncovering so many different things, giving you honest stories there on Enquirer.com. Keith, we'll chat tomorrow, man, see if the Sixers can keep this momentum going against the Atlanta Hawks. Thanks, man.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, bro.
You got it.